reasonably well centered.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, what's this message from you? All right, go ahead and do my invocation and we'll get started. Sakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastra Rutastata Bhavyate Eva Sadvi Kintu Prabhorya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutopi Dhyayanstu Vangstasya Yashastri Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Aradhanashchinang Dantaridang Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Param Bhojau Dhuli Syang Janma Janmani Sankarshana Karna Toyashai Garbhoda Shai Chapayub Dishai Sheshascha Yasyang Sakala Sanityanandakya Rama Sharanang Mamastu Namaste to Halagram Namaste Mushalayudham Namaste Revati Kanta Namaste Bhakta Vatsala Namaste Balinang Shishta Namaste Dharani Dharam Pralambare Namaste tu Trahimam Krishna Purvaja Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Bhuje Savyavenum Shirasi Chikipechang Katitadidukulang Netrante Sahacharikatakshang Vidadate Sada Srimad Vrindavana Pasati Lila Parichayo Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume Vande Nanda Vajastrinang Padarenum Abhishnasha Yasam Harikato Gitam Punati Bhuvanatrayam Bhaktya Vihina Paradha Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamadita Madhyay Kripamai Tvang Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Ito Nasingho Parato Nasingho Yato Yatayamitato Nasingho Bahir Nasingho Hridaye Nasingho Nasinghamadiim Sharanam Prapadye Namaste Narasinghaya Prahlada Hladadaini Hiranyakashipur Vaksha Shilatang Kanakalaye Vagisha Yasya Varane Lakshmir Yasya Chavakshasi Yasyaste Hridaye Samvitam Nisingamaham Bhaje Shri Nisingha Jai Nisingha Jai Jai Nisingha Prahladisha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my innumerable prostrated obeisances to the lotus feet of my eternal spiritual master, Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj. I pray for his causeless grace to purify my mind, to bestow upon me one pointed devotion to Shri Shri Radha and Govinda, and to grant me the strength to glorify Shri Krishna and his eternal associates. I offer the same unlimited obeisances to the dust of the lotus feet of my instructing spiritual masters, Shri Srimad Bhakti Niketan Toyashami Goswami Maharaj, Shri Srimad Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, to our Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, to my grand spiritual master Srimad Bhakti Daitamana Goswami Maharaj. Pray for their causeless mercy upon me, to grant me the strength to glorify Shri Krishna and his eternal associates, to purify my mind and to bestow upon me one pointed devotion to Shri Shri Radha and Govinda. And I offer my obeisances to all of you, either present in person or online. And I ask for your prayers and blessings that I may speak in a way that is pleasing to all of you and ultimately to our acharyas. So today we are gathered to celebrate Nrsimha Chaturdasi, the famous as the disappearance day of Hiranyakashipu. And so I think Mukunda Prabhu may go deeply into the Leela later today. So I wanted to, well, I will touch on the Leela a little bit. I'm especially going to focus on what our relationship with Lord Nrsimhadev is, especially as Gaudiyas, especially as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Shri Shri Radha and Govinda as our Ishtadev. What is our relationship with Lord Nrsimhadev? And so we're reading from 2 of Srila Prabhupada's purports in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are going to be 5th canto, 18th chapter, verses 8 and 9. This is in the prayers offered to the Lord by the residents of Jambudvip. So normally when we think of Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsimhadev, we think of the 7th canto where where all the Leelas take place, where after seeing Shishupal merge into the body of Krishna, Yudhishthira Maharaj asks, like, wait, great yogis who do incredible austerities, this is the maximum benefit they get. How did he get that? Just by being inimical to Krishna. And then Narada Muni said, oh, it was Jai and Vijay who came as Shishupal and Dantavakra. And Yudhishthira Maharaj said, wait, this is impossible. And Prabhupada, he really goes into those purports. The associates of Vaikuntha can never fall down to the material world. How could this be Jai or Vijay? And Srila Prabhupada, there's a couple of quotes in that purport. The residents of Vaikuntha, they never fall to the material world. So that's usually what we think. And then obviously from there, Narada Muni, he tells the glories of his disciple, Prahlad Maharaj. I've heard some people describe the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's basically Sri Vyasadev's Vyas Puja offering to his spiritual master, Narada Muni. Because pretty much every canto, there's some Leela of Narada Muni going on. Narada Muni is very prominent. Even in like the allegory of Puranjana, it's not a historical tale, but even in that allegory, Narada Muni shows up. So he's ever present throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this verse, which is also a beautiful prayer, and as far as I know, it's in prose. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namastejas Tejasya Vir Bhava Vajranaka Vajradangsha Karmashayan Randhaya Randhaya Tamokrasa Krasa Om Svaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuyishta Om Shram. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. So even just a few points in the translation, Tejas say that, Sri Krishna, he's Sarva Shaktiman on the Dashamula Tattva of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the 3 fundamental truths about Krishna himself. Was it Amnaya Praha Tattvam? So Tattvam means Lord Hari is the absolute truth. He is the cause of all causes, not dependent on any other. And then Sarva Shaktim, he's the source of all potencies, or the possessor of all potencies. And then Rashabdim, he's the ocean of all transcendental mellows. Shamrani Didi, she would often explain that, yes, on one hand there are so many ways we can look at it. We can see that, okay, Nrsimhadev is an incarnation of Krishna, an Amsa, that he does not have all 64 qualities of Swayam Bhagavan. He's one of the avatars. But then, as we say in Dashavatar Sutras, we see, no, it's Krishna Keshava, it's Vrajendra Nandan Shyam Sundar who is appearing in the form of Lord Keshava. And while she didn't go into great detail, probably because of my maybe lack of adhikar, Shamrani Didi explained that the Dashavatar Sutra, it's part of Gita Govinda, where Jayadeva Goswami is offering very confidential prayers and descriptions about the divine couple. And so each of these names, such as Nrsimha Varaha, they have some indication of Krishna's very intimate Leela in Vraj. Krishna who scratches with his nails. She gave several hints like that about Krishna, Vrajendra Nandan Shamsundar being referred to as Nrsimha, the half man, half lion.
Is it different with Lord Ramachandra? He is the Supreme Personality of God.
He's not Swayam Bhagavan though. He's Maryada Purushottam, the form of Krishna that establishes proper etiquette in this world, but Krishna is Leela Purushottam. Krishna is not limited by rules and regulations like Lord Ramchandra. Lord Ramchandra, when he was banished by Kaikeyi, he could not go against the wish of his father. He had to leave Ayodhya. He had to be banished. And then when that washerman said, criticized or questioned the chastity of Sita Devi, Lord Ramchandra, he, in order to maintain a good image as a king, he had to allow Sita to be banished. But when Krishna saw a washerman who was being offensive to him and the cowboy, gone. Krishna is the original Supreme Lord. He has no limitations like Lord Ramchandra or any other incarnation. So, yes.
He's not a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of Narayan himself.
Lord Ramchandra, he's an incarnation of Lord Narayan. It's just there's a difference between Svayam Bhagavan, the original form of Krishna in Vrindavan, and all the other forms of Godhead.
Right, he's not of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, but of Narayan himself.
Yes.
So he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Absolutely, he's Vishnu, what we would call Vishnu Tattva. Right. All right.
Those limitations that you say that weren't those voluntary that you're saying he had no choice, he had to adhere to those.
According to the Leela, you could say he had to adhere to them. Just to make sure I don't get distracted from Lord Nrsingadev, we'll save the rest of the comments and questions for the end, if that's all right.
Okay.
But thank you for that. That yes, Svayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna, he holds a unique position. There's the acharyas distinguish between avatar and avatari. Mm-hmm. Avatari means the source of all avatars. Svayam Bhagavan, Krishna and Vrindavan, and also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the avatari. They are Svayam Bhagavan. Whereas all other Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtam, that all the avatars such as Lord Ramchandra, Nrsingadev, Vamandev, they are avatars, expansions, or you could say partial expansions of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda. And also Srila Prabhupada, in the way he translates it, says to Lord Nrsingadev, please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. That it's only ultimately the ignorance in our hearts that causes us to be fearful. Bhayam dvitya binivesha tasyat. That it's due to our seeing ourselves as separate from Krishna, due to seeing the world, everything in this world, as separate from Krishna, we're filled with fear. The farther and farther we get away from our identity as Sri Krishna's eternal servants, we feel that much more fear in this material world. The Srila Prabhupada in his purport says, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 22nd chapter, verse 39, Sanat Kumar speaks the following words to Maharaj Prithu. Yet pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karmashayam gratitam udgratayanti santam tadvannarikta matayo yatayo piruddha sroto ganastamaranam bhajavasudevam. Devotees always engaged in the service of the toes of the Lord's lotus feet can very easily become free from hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, cannot stop the waves of sense gratification, although they try to do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Every living being within this material world has a strong desire to enjoy matter to his fullest satisfaction. For this purpose, the conditioned soul must accept one body after another, and thus his strongly fixed fruitive desires continue. One cannot stop the repetition of birth and death without being completely desireless. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami describes pure bhakti, devotional service, as follows. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadya navritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti ruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, who killed Hiranyakashipu, the personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means a soft cushion or bed. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus, Hiranyakashipu was the perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, until Lord Nrsingadev killed him. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse. So if you points out this purport, in that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada quotes that, where he says devotees are always engaged in the service of the toes of the Lord's lotus feet. Other acharyas in their translations and commentaries, they talk about yet pada pankja palasa vilasa bhaktya, that the devotees, when they talk about meditating on the feet or the toes of the Supreme Lord, that means where are the feet of Krishna stepping in Vrindavan? What are with the vilas? What are the leelas? Of Krishna walking here, Krishna walking there in Vrindavan, and so the santas, the saintly personalities, they're because their mind is engaged in meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna, serving the lotus feet of Krishna. Gradually, the power of bhakti removes all the anarthas, all the ignorance in the heart. And they quote the famous kram or succession of verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it's Srila Jiva Goswami, when he comments on this verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he quotes 5 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam talking about the karmashya, the knot of karmic material desires being pierced and eradicated in the heart. Shinvatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantastohya badrani vidunoti sushrit satam. That just by hearing and chanting about the glories of Krishna, was it Srinvatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana, just hearing and chanting this is a great auspicious activity. Hridyantastohya badrani vidunoti sushrit satam. Bhakti Swarup Sridhar Maharaj and his katha here, he was explaining that the process of hearing is such a wonderful process of devotional service, because it's not like I have to clean my heart by chanting. No, just by hearing, Krishna goes in the heart and he starts cleaning. I remember Srila Bhakti Niketan Swami Maharaj, he explained to me that, why, Krishna's already in the heart of all living beings. Why do I need to hear Hari Katha for him to do the cleaning? He can just do the cleaning on his own. But no, sometimes, in order for certain maybe bacteria or good, you could say, chemicals in the body to be stimulated, you need an external medicine to stimulate the healing process. So similarly, Hari Katha needs to be supplied from outside for then Krishna to sort of start to take action from within the heart and start doing the cleaning. But it's clear that he's the one who does the cleaning. We don't individually clean our hearts. I had asked Sri Aniruddha Prabhu, how can I become more forgiving? And he said, you don't separately endeavor to become forgiving. By the power of the holy name, by chanting very seriously and sincerely, forgiveness arises automatically. And then the next part of, ultimately Lord Nrsingadev purifying those material desires in the heart. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhakti naishtiki. That by regular hearing and attendance of classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and serving the pure devotee, the Bhakta Bhagavatam, unflinching devotional service gets established within the heart, and all of one's difficulties are almost completely eradicated. So that's the stage of Nishta. And then Tada Rajastamo Bhavo, Kamalobhadayashye, Cheta Etera Navidham, Sitam Sattve Prasidati. That in the stages of Ruchi and Asakti, we become free of the influence of the lower modes and we become fixed in Shuddha Sattva. Then Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayati. That at the stage of Bhav, we become prasanna, very, very peaceful, very joyful, and we become liberated from all materialistic association. And then finally, Vidyate Hridiya Grantis Chidante Sarva Sanshaya, Kshiyante Chasya Karmani Drishtaya Vatmani Ishvare. Then the final stage of praying, all the knots of doubt and ignorance in the heart are completely pierced and destroyed as Sri Krishna fully illuminates us with our eternal relationship with them. And also, just since Srila Prabhupada quoted the verse Anyabhilashita Sunyam, and Prabhupada talks about being completely desireless. Srila Bhakti Swarup Sridhar Maharaj, he talked in this class about how the word Anyabhilashita indicates that, sometimes with Draupadi, when she was being disrobed, she called out to Krishna to protect her, and he said, this is not a fault as a pure devotee. Oh, she asked Krishna for something personal for her. No, it's natural that the devotee will take shelter of Krishna exclusively to protect them. And so sometimes when great need arises, the impulse comes to just take shelter of Krishna. He said, this does not break their pure devotional service. Draupadi always was and is a pure devotee. He said that what goes against pure devotional service is just that tendency of Lord, give me money. Lord, give me wealth. Lord, make this family member behave themselves. Whatever it is we're asking of the Lord. Just please make this better. Please make that better. That kind of just constantly asking for favors from the Lord. That's not favorable for pure devotional service.
That also proved that no one else can protect you other than Lord Krishna.
Right.
No one else was able to do anything.
Right.
Not even her own husbands.
Absolutely, yes. And then Prahlad Maharaj, he continues here in the next verse, and it's also a very sweet prayer. Svastyastu vishvasya kala prasidatam dhyayantu bhutani shivam mito diya manascha bhadrang bhajatada dhokshaje aveshyatang no matirapya hoituki. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The following verse describes a Vaishnava. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Just like a desire tree, a Vaishnava can fulfill all the desires of anyone who takes shelter of his lotus feet. Prahlad Maharaj is a typical Vaishnava. He prays, so if he's defining Prahlad Maharaj as a typical Vaishnava, I think he would mean a typical Uttam Vaishnava. So it's curious. Sometimes, when, Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, they refer to a devotee, they're referring very broadly to the entire community of devotees, Kanishta, Uttam, Madhya, whatever it is, they're referring to anyone who's in touch with devotional service. But then sometimes when they use the word devotee or Vaishnava, they're referring to a pure devotee or a pure Vaishnava. So if Prahlad Maharaj is a typical Vaishnava, then he's referring to pure devotees here. He prays not for himself, but for all living entities, the gentle, the envious, and the mischievous. He always thought of the welfare of mischievous persons like his father, Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad Maharaj did not ask for anything for himself. Rather, he prayed for the Lord to excuse his demoniac father. This is the attitude of a Vaishnava who always thinks of the welfare of the entire universe. Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Dharma are meant for persons who are completely free of envy, parama nirmatsaranam. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays in this verse, kala prasidatam, may all the envious persons be pacified. The material world is full of envious persons, but if one frees himself of envy, he becomes liberal in his social dealings and can think of others' welfare. Anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness and engages himself completely in the service of the Lord cleanses his mind of all envy. Manascha bhadrang bhajatada dokshaje. Therefore, we should pray to Lord Nrsimhadev to sit in our hearts. We should pray, Bahir Nrsimho Hridaye Nrsimho. Let Lord Nrsimhadev sit in the core of my heart, killing all my bad propensities. Let my mind become clean so that I may peacefully worship the Lord and bring peace to the entire world. So, Srila Prabhupada was regular in his temples, they sing this part of Nrsimhadev prayers, Bahir Nrsimho Hridaye Nrsimho. I remember I'd read this purport long ago, and so it stuck to me like, this is one particular reason we recite that prayer. We're asking the Lord, let Lord Nrsimhadev sit in the core of my heart, killing all my bad propensities. Let my mind become clean so that I may peacefully worship the Lord and bring peace to the entire world. So it's a beautiful insight into that prayer, because, Bahir Nrsimho Hridaye Nrsimho, it can just mean he's outside and he's in my heart as well, but it's specifically asking, please sit in my heart and purify me. Another, again, just on the topic of, Krishna's already in our heart, right? Paramatma, he's already there in the heart. So why do we sometimes ask Krishna or Lord Nrsimhadev to sit in the heart? And then why do, in one fourth canto purport, I want to say fourth canto, 22nd chapter, verse 9, but I would have to double check that. The four Kumaras are referred to as the carriers of the Lord in their heart. So there's a difference between, so first I'll address what it's like for us sadhakas when we pray for the Lord to sit in our heart. Again, yes, Paramatma, he is always there in our heart, and yes, we're asking the Lord to become visibly manifest in our heart, to help us to meditate on him, and for him to personally give us his shelter and purify us from within the core of our heart. Let's see, I think 3rd canto, 9th chapter, when referring to Lord Brahma giving up his pride and taking shelter of the Supreme Lord, Srila Prabhupada explains that in one of those purports that even for a devotee with material desire, the Lord will manifest a spiritual form within the core of his heart.
I always thought that purport was fascinating. And Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas talk about how the more and more we reach the stage of Nishta, of steadiness in bhakti, it becomes easier and easier to meditate on the form of the Lord within the mind. And so yes, in that purport, Srila Prabhupada says, well, why are the pure devotees referred to as the carriers of Lord Vishnu? Well, Lord Krishna, he's in the heart of every living entity, but it's specifically because they perceive the Lord in ecstatic love that the Lord is especially manifest in their heart. So there's this distinction between Paramatma, the Lord's expansion manifests in our heart, versus when the Lord Bhagavan himself actually starts to manifest his form within the core of our hearts. And Srila Prabhupada continues with some very fascinating purports here. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a very fine purport in this regard. Whenever one offers a prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one always requests some benediction from him. Even pure Nishkam devotees pray for some benediction, as instructed by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka. Ayinanda tanuja kinkarang patitang mang vishame bhavam buddho, kripayata vapada pankajas tita dhuli sadrishang vichintaya. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Hi, if we're gonna get this one, can we get a few more lights?
Yep.
Okay, that's a little better.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. In another prayer, Lord Chaitanya says, Mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhakti rahaituki tvayi. Life after life, kindly let me have unalloyed love and devotion at your Lordship's lotus feet. When Prahlad Maharaj chants Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, he prays for a benediction from the Lord, but because he is also an exalted Vaishnava, he wants nothing for his personal sense gratification. The first desire expressed in this prayer is Svastyastu Vishvasya. Let there be good fortune throughout the entire universe. Prahlad Maharaj thus requested the Lord to be merciful to everyone, including his father, a most envious person. And just before I continue, as Srila Prabhupada is saying, the first desire expressed is Svastyastu Vishvasya. Let there be good fortune throughout the entire universe. This is the mentality of the pure devotee. Even in the beginning of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami writes, Akila Jagan Mangalasya, that I'm writing this nectar of devotion, this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, for the benefit of the entire universe. Which is a very fascinating thing. Obviously, Srila Rupa Goswami, he was manifested about 500 years ago, and he was taking shelter in Vrindavan. It's only in recent times that Srila Prabhupada has distributed the teachings of Rupa Goswami to throughout the Western world. But still, Srila Rupa Goswami's vision is that this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is written for the benefit of the entire universe. Even when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing Narada Muni Bhajai Vina, he prays to Rupa Goswami that the nectar of the holy name spread throughout the entire universe. So this is the vision of the pure devotees, and we pray that we can become witness to these desires being fulfilled. And then continuing on, according to Chanakya Pandit, there are two kinds of envious living entities. One is a snake, and the other is the man like Hiranyakashipu, who is by nature envious of everyone, even of his father or son. Hiranyakashipu was envious of his little son Prahlad, but Prahlad Maharaj asked a benediction for the benefit of his father. Hiranyakashipu was very envious of devotees, but Prahlad wished that his father and other demons like him would give up their envious nature by the grace of the Lord and stop harassing the devotees, kala prasidatam. The difficulty is that the kala, envious living entity, is rarely pacified. One kind of kala, the snake, can be pacified simply by mantras or by the action of a particular herb. Mantroshadivasar kalakena nivaryate. An envious person, however, cannot be pacified by any means. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that all envious persons may undergo a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. Again, it is a very amazing example of Prahlad Maharaj, that when somebody wrongs us, it's usually our last instinct to think of praying for their welfare. I've heard that Srila Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he said that when we can genuinely pray for the welfare of our worst enemy or the person who wishes us the worst, then we can know that we're, I forget exactly how he put it, but we can know that we are actually on track for our highest welfare. So it's both something to aspire for and something to practice as well. If we find ourselves instinctively wishing ill to someone, we can pray for them, and we can also pray for our own ill feeling to be resolved by Krishna. And it's just, it's the habit of, okay, I'm surrendering myself to Krishna, wishing well on that person, and that, will Krishna hear our prayers for them or not? Will Krishna remove the envy in their heart or not? On his time scale, he will. We may or may not see it, but our heart gets purified by wishing well for another. And on that note, Srila Prabhupada says, if the Krishna consciousness movement spreads all over the world, and if by the grace of Krishna everyone accepts it, the thinking of envious people will change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays Shivang Mito Diya. In material activities, everyone is envious of others. But in Krishna consciousness, no one is envious of anyone else. Everyone thinks of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that everyone's mind may become gentle by being fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna, Bhajata and Hokshaje. As indicated elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindeo, and as advised by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 1865, Manmana Bhava Man Bhakta, one should constantly think of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one's mind will certainly be cleansed, Chetodarpana Marjanam. Materialists always think of sense gratification, but Prahlad Maharaj prays that the Lord's mercy will change their minds and they will stop thinking of sense gratification. If they think of Krishna always, everything will be all right. Some people argue that and this is a really fascinating end of the purport, some people argue that if everyone thought of Krishna in that way, the whole universe would be vacated because everyone would go back home, back to Godhead. However, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is impossible because the living entities are innumerable. If one set of living entities is actually delivered by the Krishna consciousness movement, another set will fill the entire universe. Yeah.
What do you mean by, he said the entire universe? Is he talking about this universe?
Well, just if a universe, if all living entities in one universe are delivered, the Jiva Shakti is unlimited, so more living entities will populate the universe. So yeah, it's quite inconceivable, but yeah, the Jiva Shakti, it's one of the Shaktis of the Lord, and so there's no end to the amount of living entities that can fill a universe. So there's no question, what will happen to the universe if we all get delivered? Don't worry, there'll be more to fill it. Also, we know that one of the purposes for the material universe is for Krishna. He will display his various leelas in each universe, and thus give all the living entities the chance to become enamored with his leelas, join in on his leelas. So just in line with the topic about our relationship with Lord Nrsingadeva as Gaudiyas, again, Srila Prabhupada recommends we should always pray to Lord Nrsingadeva to sit in the core of our heart and purify our heart and mind so that we can fix our mind on the Lord. We should also pray to him to cure our own heart of envy, and to we should pray to him for the welfare of others as well. So this is Srila Prabhupada's purport, and then there is five prayers by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he really goes into depth about, especially as worshippers of Radha Govinda and Mahaprabhu, how the follower of Rupa Goswami will pray to Lord Nrsingadev. So let's see if I know the meter. Hidushta hridaya kama adiri puchai kutinati pratishtasa satya sadarai hridaya sudhanara krishna ravasan nrisinghacharana mora heto kaman. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur singing these. Within my sinful heart, the 6 enemies headed by lust perpetually reside, as well as duplicity, the desire for fame, plus sheer cunning. At the lotus feet of Lord Narasingha, I hope that he will mercifully purify my heart and give me the desire to serve Lord Krishna. So on one hand, again, Lord Nrsimha and Lord Krishna are one. Lord Nrsimha, he's Vishnu Tattva, he's not different from Lord Krishna. And yet there's some distinction made here that at the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimha, I hope that he will mercifully purify my heart and let him give me the desire to serve Lord Krishna. And it's Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 6, I think verse 111, in regards to Advaita Acharya. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that all of the various amshas, all the various incarnations and different forms of Krishna, they get more pleasure from being a servant of Swayam Bhagavan, from being a servant of the original form of Godhead, than they do from their own experience of being God. More pleasurable for them than being Vishnu Tattva is being a servant of Swayam Bhagavan. And this is, again, so much so true that even Swayam Bhagavan Krishna wants to know what it's like to serve Swayam Bhagavan, and thus he takes on the mood of his greatest servitor, Srimati Radharani, so that he himself can taste servitude to Vrajanganandan Sri Shyam Sundar. And so we see here, Lord Nrsingadev, he is serving Krishna. We're asking him to give us the desire to serve Lord Sri Krishna. Even in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, after the Chandkazi had the Mridanga broken, Lord Nrsingadev, he went on his chest, he clawed at him, and this halted his resistance to the Sankirtan movement. So again, it's okay to view it as, okay, Lord Chaitanya came in the form of Lord Nrsingadev to enact this Leela. It's also correct to say that Lord Nrsingadev was serving Swayam Bhagavan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by removing the obstruction to the Sankirtan movement. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur continues, Kandi Nrsimha pare magi bo kakan, nirapare navadvipe jugala bhajan, bhaya bhaya paya yangra darshane se hari, prasanna hoibo kabe more daya kari. Weeping, I will beg at the lotus feet of Lord Narasingha for the benediction of worshipping Radha and Krishna in Navadvip, perfectly safe and free from all difficulties. When will this Lord Hari, whose terrible form strikes fear into fear itself, ever become pleased and show me his mercy? And also just the name Lord Hari has many meanings, and one of the meanings of Hari is lion. So sometimes we say Nara Hari, man lion. Hari also means thief, Krishna who takes away all of our material miseries and bestows prema upon us. So, but one of the names of Hari, or one of the meanings of the name Hari is lion. Yadyapi Vishanamurti Dushta Jiva Prati Prahladani Krishna Bhakta Jane Badrayati Kabeva Prasanna Hoye Sakre Pavachane Nirbhaya Karibe Mudhaya Kinchane. Even though Lord Narasimha is terrifying toward the sinful souls, he offers great auspiciousness unto the devotees of Lord Krishna, headed by Prahlad Maharaj. When will he be pleased to speak words of compassion unto me, a worthless fool, and thereby make me fearless? Svachande Baiso He Vatsa Shri Gauranga Dhame Jugala Bhajana Hao Rati Hao Name Mama Bhakta Kripa Bale Vigna Jabe Dura Shuddha Chitte Bhajo Radha Krishna Rasapura. He, meaning Lord Nrsingadev, will say, Dear child, sit down freely and live happily here in Sri Gauranga Dham. May you nicely worship the divine couple, and may you develop loving attachment for their holy names. By the mercy of my devotees, all obstacles are cast far away. With a purified heart, just perform the worship of Radha and Krishna, for such worship overflows with sweet nectar. E boli kabe mora mastaka upara, sviyat shri charana harshe dharibe ishvara, amani jugala preme satvika vikare, dharayaluti boyami shri nrsinghadvare. Saying this, will that Lord delightfully place his own divine lotus feet upon my head? I will experience sublime love for the divine couple Radha Krishna and undergo the ecstatic transformations called Satvik. Falling on the ground, I will roll about at the door of Sri Narasimha's temple. And that's from Sri Navadvip Bhava Taranga. So, again, even more specifically as worshippers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have this mentality to Lord Nrsingadev. Because on one hand, it can be a little confusing, because sometimes we talk about like one-pointed devotion to Nandanandan Sri Krishna, that, or like in Hanuman's case, it's one-pointed devotion to Lord Ram. It's not that he has disrespect for any other form of Godhead, but Lord Ramchandra is his all in all. He's not a worshipper of Lord Nrsingadev. I think even when Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis tried to, have their younger brother Anupam worship Radha and Krishna, he really tried to, but he couldn't give his heart to Radha and Krishna because he was a dedicated devotee of Lord Ram. Similarly, I think a similar pastime happened with Morai Gupta, who is Hanuman. Lord Chaitanya wanted him to worship Radha and Krishna. He said, I just can't do it. I can't, Lord Ram, Sita and Ram keep coming in my heart. And in one or both of those pastimes, Lord Chaitanya said, what was it? All glory to that devotee who has unflinching faith in his Lord, and all glory to that Lord who is also similarly unflinchingly devoted to his devotee. So yeah, especially as followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whoever's that, can you silence that? yeah, so, so yeah, the devotee, they have unflinching devotion to their Ishtadev, their particular form of the Lord. And so, as devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda, we don't, in one sense, we don't worship Lord Nrsingadev as our Ishtadev. There are also distinctions of, such as normally Lord Nrsingadev, he may not be kept on quite the same altar as Radha and Govinda. I think maybe here we might not have quite the facility, but so I have heard Srila Gurudev say that we don't want Lord Nrsingadev's form present because then it'll scare all the gopis away. So there's some distinctions that Krishna, he's not going to manifest the rupa of one of the other avatars when he's with the gopis. So there's some distinction there, but there are again, in the light that Lord Nrsingadev purifies our heart and gives us the desire to serve Radha and Krishna, we worship him in that regard.
So I was just listening to the class that Sesha Maharaj was given, and he was talking about this very point.
Mm.
And he's saying a devotee told him not to put Nrsingadev on the same altar, but then he saw in a case of Jigori Mag, like Paramahansa had Nrsingadev picture like right there in front of Radha and Krishna. And then he asked about that, and he was told, oh no, Nrsingadev is there to purify you so that you can serve Radha and Krishna.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
Jai. Any, before I go on to the next bit, any other questions or comments based on what we talked about so far?
No, good.
Okay. So yeah, that was, I just wanted to talk about our relationship with Lord Nrsingadev first. And now I will discuss some of the background for the Leela of Lord Nrsingadev. So I spoke with Mukunda Prabhu a little bit, and because I had heard that there's a pastime where Lakshmi Devi was angry at Jain Vijay, so I got some confirmation from him. It's referenced directly in Srimad Bhagavatam and in various Puranas. It's explained that Jain Vijay, not only are they the gate, I forget if it's the eastern or western gate. They're western gate? Okay, so Jain Vijay, not only are they the gatekeepers for the western gate of Vaikuntha, they're also the gatekeepers for the inner chamber of the Lord. And so at one point, there was one time where the Lord, he was taking rest, and he told Jain Vijay, make sure nobody comes in while I'm taking rest. So okay, nobody comes in. And so then Lakshmi Devi comes, and she said, I want to enter the Lord's chamber. They said, we're so sorry, the Lord, he instructed us that no one is to enter. She said, well, no, I have to enter to massage him so that he can take rest. And they said, look, we're really sorry. This is above our pay grade. All we know is that we're not supposed to let anyone in. And so she had that thought, I don't know if it was to curse them or punish them. She just had that thought of to curse them. But then she stopped herself because she knew, okay, well, Jain Vijay are very dear to Lord Narayan. It's not going to please him if I curse them. So I will hold back.
But the thought came in her mind.
Yes. And the Lord is aware of the thought in her mind and heart. So he said, okay, I want to fulfill her desire.
Well,
And, it's just, again, Lakshmi Devi, she is his Shakti, his pure devotee. So the desire came within her. I said, yes, I want to fulfill her desire. And Mukunda Prabhu told me that in Krishna Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the entirety of everything I'm about to explain, all these different facets of the Leela, the whole purpose is that the Lord wanted to relish Veer Ras, the rasa of being able to have a good fight, essentially, chivalry. So that's at the very root. The Lord had a desire, I want a good fight. And so it starts with, yes, Lakshmi Devi just has the desire and chooses not to act on it. In the material world, if we have a desire and we don't act on it, that's it. It doesn't have to go past there. But in a very transcendental sense, the Lord saw her desire and said, okay, I'm going to make something very wonderful of this. And so then, meanwhile, in the material world, Lord Brahma, he had created, first he created the 4 Kumaras, and he wanted them, to procreate, to populate the world. But they decided, no, we're just going to stay 5 years old. We don't want to get entangled here. So we're going to keep ourselves free of all materialistic attachment and passion. We're just going to be fixed in Brahma. And so Lord Brahma, he was so angry at this that from his rage or anger, Rudra manifested from between his forehead. I don't remember all the details of creation from there, but eventually he manifested Narada Muni, the personification of bhakti in this world. And so, the 4 Kumaras, they were relishing great pleasure as Brahmanandis. They were just relishing the pleasure of pure spirit.
That wasn't Lord Shiva.
No, that was the 4 Kumaras. They were relishing Brahmananda. The Brahmananda meaning the pleasure of Brahma, or you could say pure spirit. Just, I'm not of this world. I am of Brahma. I'm spirit. And so they were happy until they saw that their younger brother Narada Muni was much happier than them. They said, hey, he's relishing Sevananda, he's relishing the bliss of devotional service, And we can see he's tasting something so much greater than whatever we're tasting. So the four Kumaras, they approached Lord Brahma and said, well, clue us in. What is our younger brother doing that's giving him such intense bliss? And so Lord Brahmaji, he instructed them on devotional service, and I forget if he told them to go to Vaikuntha or if they expressed the desire to go to Vaikuntha, but in one way or another, from that conversation with Lord Brahma, the four Kumaras, they headed up to Vaikuntha. And again, Srila Prabhupada explains in his purports that just like, young boys in a village, like they'll just walk around naked, they'll just like wander into random people's houses and...
Didn't they smell like Vaman Maharaj, he pierced the material world, and then they smelled the Tulsi?
No,
that's something else?
That's something else.
They had a
Vaman,
fragrance.
that comes later in this pastime.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the smelling of Tulsi comes later in this pastime.
But they do have a fragrance.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's like very enchanting.
Yes, yes. So yeah, the four Kumar again. Srila Prabhupada says it's just like little 5-year-old village boys just wandering into anyone's house, almost no discrimination. Am I allowed here? Am I not allowed here? They just walk in, and so they just walked on up to. Well, I guess I don't know if they walked, but they arrived at the gates of Vaikuntha. however they arrived, and they were met by Jai and Vijay there, and Jai and Vijay just thought like, who are these? Who are these naked people showing up at the gate of Vaikuntha? So Jai and Vijay they blocked the entrance and said, not just anyone can enter into Vaikuntha. And the four Kumaras said, oh, you're making you're discriminating against us based on our dress or based on the way that we look. Surely for having such discriminatory behavior, you must be imposters here. You must be influenced by the modes of material nature. So we curse you to fall down to the material world. And Jai and Vijay were very scared because these are brahmanas. And so as they were afraid, Lord Narayan was on Garuda with Lakshmi Devi. And normally speaking, I think it was that Lord Narayan, he doesn't normally descend, but he said, oh, hey Garuda, I want you to descend where Jai and Vijay are. And so Lord Garuda with Lord Narayan and Lakshmi Devi, they descended. They descended down there, and everyone was really enchanted. It's Srila Prabhupada describes that in Vaikuntha there. Even the bees and everything are constantly, humming the glories of the Lord. The couples there are flying on their own vimanas, their own airplanes, constantly, chanting the glories of Lord Narayan. And everybody has very high regard for Tulasi Devi because they know how dear she is to the lotus feet of the Lord. And so, everyone sees Lord Narayan and Lord Lakshmi Devi coming, and Lakshmi Devi coming. And so, obviously all eyes are on them. And then Lord Narayan does something unusual, which is he asks Garuda to actually allow him to dismount. Whereas, Garuda thought, hey, wait, the Lord, even when he's addressing someone, he stays on my back. So they kind of knew, okay, something unusual is going on here. And so Lord Narayan and Lakshmi Devi, I forget if Lakshmi Devi dismounted as well, but I know Lord Narayan did. And Srila Prabhupada gives a very fascinating purport. I want to say 3rd Canto, 15th chapter, or maybe verse 42 or 45. Srila Prabhupada, in the translation and purports explains that ultimately, Lakshmi Devi, she's the embodiment of all beauty, but even she was eclipsed by the beauty of Lord Narayan. And so Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful purport there that this is one of the differences between Vaikuntha and Vrajadham. That in Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan is prominent. Everyone wants to see him in a sort of more beautified, more glorified position. But in Vrindavan, it's the original Lakshmi, or Srimati Radharani. She has the priority. Everyone wants to see her superior to Krishna. So he said this is one of the differences between Vrajadham and Vaikuntha. So yes, Lord Narayan's beauty eclipsed that of Lakshmi Devi. And so then Lord Narayan, he addressed Jai and Vijay, he addressed the four Kumaras, saying that, I'm giving a very abbreviated version here. Lord Narayan told them, if my servants have offended you, then before he addressed them, this is when the fragrance comes in. So I remember Vaipur a long time ago, he was quoting the works of Jiva Goswami, saying that a gust of wind came in just as Lord Narayan was dismounting from Garuda and carried the fragrance of Tulasi into the nostrils of the four Kumaras. And it said that just as an invading army...
Then they went into ecstasy.
Yes.
They were all completely somewhere else.
Right, yeah, just as the Acharyas explained that just as an invading army penetrates the fortress. They take over all the armaments, and gradually they take over all of the prominent facilities of the kingdom. Similarly, Tulasi, David went into their nose, conquered all their senses, conquered their mind completely, and put them into complete ecstasy. And so, so at this point, because they were in such ecstasy, they couldn't quite grasp the nuance of what the Lord was saying. They were hearing him, but they were in such ecstasy. Just their senses were overwhelmed, seeing his form, smelling his fragrance, hearing the sweetness of his voice. In Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about just the overwhelming experience when a devotee finally has their proper darshan of Krishna. Every single time one of their when the eyes come into contact with Krishna, the rest of the senses then act as eyes to behold the beauty of Krishna, which overwhelms them to the point of fainting. Then Krishna tries to speak to them to wake them up. Then his voice is so sweet that all of their senses essentially, act as ears to try and hear the voice of the Lord, which overwhelms them in ecstasy. And again, as they try to perceive him with each sense, the experience is so overwhelming that all the senses try to act as that one sense and get completely overwhelmed. Then eventually, by Krishna's Madhurya and his Audarya, by his mercy, he gives them the power to fully experience him with all the senses. So the four Kumaras were, it doesn't describe that they were fainting again and again in this particular pastime, but they were totally overwhelmed with the sensory experience of the Lord. Especially since, again, they were, Brahmanandis. They were fixed on the impersonal aspect, so now they meet the Lord face to face. And so the Lord, he started saying, my dear Brahmanas, you are in such a glorified position in society. If my servants, my gatekeepers have offended you, surely they must be gotten rid of, just as if there is, a limb has, like the arm has been infected with something, you may have to amputate the arm to save the rest of the body. And so it sounded like he was favoring the four Kumaras. And again, because they were too bobbed out to be able to distinguish the nuance, they didn't realize that actually he was indirectly glorifying Jai and Vijay, that, no, they are like my own limb. Letting them go is like losing a limb of mine. And that if the Brahmanas are this glorious, how much more glorious are the Vaishnavas? Shri Radha Govinda Mahaprabhu ki Jai.
I'm pretty sure it's described as he will simultaneously glorifying both of them. He was glorifying Jai and Vijay, and then also satisfying their desire to see him as well. He was doing both.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why he personally came there.
Yes.
And with Garuda
And Lakshmi
it was
Devi,
very,
yes.
very. Normally, he would never do that. And
Right.
He did that specifically in this pastime.
Yes. The Lord is famous for being able to accomplish many things with a single action. And so, to benefit Jai and Vijay as well as the four Kumaras, he appeared personally. And so, so he was, the four Kumaras could not quite distinguish, the nuance of what he was saying. And so, Lord Narayan, he ultimately said that, yes, I approve of the curse that you've given. And in some, I think, Puranas or some scriptures, it said that Jai and Vijay were given the option, you can take 7 births as devotees or 3 births as demons. And I've heard some people say that, they wanted to take 3 births as demons so they could come back sooner. I don't actually know if that's authoritative. With what we do know from the Shastras is that, this all starts with, it's not at some point in time, because time is conspicuous by its absence there. But the Lord had the desire to relish Veer Ras, to have a good fight. And again, both in this commentary as well as Madhurya Kadambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Jai and Vijay, they had this concern that we know that our Lord, he wants a good fight. He wants to relish Veer Ras, the Ras of chivalry. But nobody, those in the material world, they have the enmity required to fight to the death, but they're too weak to fight him. Whereas we have the strength to fight him, but we lack the enmity. Nobody in Vaikuntha has the kind of enmity required to actually fight the Lord with all their might. So even if it means that we lose our devotional mood, I don't know if they said lose our devotional mood, but even if we have to develop enmity to the Lord to fulfill his desire, let it be done. We can't tolerate the Lord's desire going unfulfilled. And so this is their deep pain. I'm forgetting the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that calm or lust is the desire for one's own sense gratification, and praying is the desire to please the senses of Krishna, the desire to fulfill the desires of Krishna. And so this is their prema. They're not worried about, oh, what about our position in Vaikuntha? They said, no, like let us, if we have to become inimical so that Krishna can fulfill that desire, let anything happen to us. And then Mukunda Prabhu, he often makes the point that, if we want to understand the prema of Radha and Krishna, first we have to see the prema that's present in Nrsimha Leela and in all these other Leelas throughout the Bhagavatam. If we can recognize prema here, then we can recognize the supremacy of prema of the gopis headed by Srimati Radharani. So yeah, Jai and Vijay, they had this desire that, let us, by any means, let us fulfill the Lord's desire for a good fight. And so they chose, three, we'll take the three births as demons. And one, let's see.
Kumbhakarna and
Ravana as well.
Ravana, and then Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and then who's the third?
Shishupal and Dantavakra.
Right. Shishupal, correct.
And so a really fascinating insight that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when the Lord is kind of speaking to them about going to the material world. This is 3rd Canto, 16th chapter, verse 29, the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Translation: The Lord spoke to his two associates, meaning Jai and Vijay. Go to the material world. Do not be afraid. You will have good fortune. But also do not go to that world. Though I can nullify the curse of the Brahmana, I do not desire to go against my own rules. And so there's an apparent contradiction. Go to the material world, but also don't go to the material world. So commentary. Seeing that Jai and Vijay had just arrived, the Lord spoke, go to the material world. Seeing them weeping and wailing, the Lord again spoke to them, his heart softened by compassion. Do not fear. May you too have good fortune. Do not go there. Always remain serving me in Vaikuntha. The negative word ma can be used with both yatam and paishtam. Seeing that they were now happy, he said, though I can nullify the curse of the Brahmanas, I do not desire to destroy my own promise. I have made a rule to accept the inevitability of a Brahmana's curse. Just as Garuda sacrificed an expansion of his wing in order to maintain the inevitability of the thunderbolt's power, you should take on the role of demons in one of your expansions and at the same time remain in Vaikuntha with your Svarups. So this was the first time I had ever learned this, that in one sense Jai and Vijay never had to leave. And what's interesting is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he doesn't even just say that. Now he gives Praman from Srimad Bhagavatam for his own statement. Later, this passage is found from the 8th canto, 21st chapter, verses 15 through 17. Tan abhidravato drishtva diti jani kapan ripa prahasyanuchara vishnu pratyashedhanudayudha nanda sunando tajayo vijaya. So we got those words, Jaya Vijaya, Prabalo Balaha, Kumuda Kumudakshascha, Vishvaksena, Patatrirat, Jayanta Shrutadevascha, Pushpadanto Tasatvataha, Sarve Nagayuta Pranash, Chamum Te Jagnurar Asurim. So yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 21st chapter, verses 15 through 17. O king, when the associates of the Lord saw the soldiers of the demons coming forward in violence, they smiled. Taking up their weapons, they forbade the demons to continue their attempt. Nanda Sunanda, Jai Vijay, Prabala Bala, Kumuda Kumudaksha, Vishvaksena, Patatrirat, meaning Garuda, Jayanta, Shrutadev, Pushpadanta, and Satvata were all associates of Lord Vishnu. They were as powerful as 10,000 elephants, and now they began killing the soldiers of the demons. In the narration of Vamana and Bali, Jai and Vijay are mentioned among the associates of the Lord who fight. But after being born as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, they would later be born as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. The explanation of their expansions must be given in order to resolve the contradiction of being simultaneously in the form of demons and associates of the Lord. So again, I always found that to be a very, a very amazing insight from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yeah, timeline-wise, well, it was between Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. It was between Nrsimha Leela and Ram Leela. So they'd only come for one of the births, and yet here they are, Jai and Vijay, they're fighting in the war. And so, yeah, we learned that even the associates of Krishna, they can have expansions like that.
Interesting. He says how they never actually left Vaikuntha.
Right.
When you really think about it, how could they actually leave Vaikuntha?
Right.
They're like Krishna said, it's like losing his own
Limb.
limb.
Yes.
Do they have unlimited expansions like the Lord?
That I'm not entirely sure. That's a good question, because if you think about it though, Krishna can be present in so many universes, and let's say Madhu Mangal or any of the gopis, any of the cowboys, Nanda and Yashoda, they're present in all those universes as well. So it would seem that it's, at least for some category of associates, it's possible. I'm not sure if every jiva can reach the point where they can be present with Krishna in multiple universes. That I don't have an authoritative answer for, but we definitely see it's not just the Vishnu Tattvas who can expand into so many universes and simultaneously be in Golok Vrindavan at the same time.
But they also wouldn't have any desire to do that, because their only desire is to serve in Vaikuntha, to serve Lord Krishna, the same way that Hanuman, he explained earlier, would have no other desire but to serve Lord Ram, and then simultaneously the gopis would have no other desire but to serve Lord Krishna in Vrajadam. It would not even come to their possibilities.
Right. Right. This this reminds me that in Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse, this is actually one of the famous purports where Srila Prabhupada says that once one is accepted into the association of the Lord, he never falls to the material world. So again, it's clarified repeatedly that Jai and Vijay, they're coming to the material world. It is not like us conditioned souls coming from the Tatastha region. Again, Srila Prabhupada in the 8th canto, I want to say the 8th canto, 2nd or 3rd chapter in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada clearly writes, Mahavishnu is the origin of the conditioned souls in the material world. Also, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he writes that the jivas are the Tatastha Shakti of Paramatma, and the first, Srila Prabhupada says the first Paramatma is Mahavishnu, Karanadakshaya Vishnu. And Jaiva Dharma, it's further explained that each form essentially of Baladev Prabhu, there's Balaram in Vrindavan, Mul Sankarshan, Mahasankarshan, and then the Purushavatar Karanadakshaya Vishnu. From all these forms of Sankarshan or of Baladev Prabhu, the various jivas of that region manifest. So again, as Srila Prabhupada said, Mahavishnu is the origin of the conditioned souls in the material world. And then for the liberated souls, those who are eternally in Vaikuntha and Golok Vrindavan, they manifest from Lord Balaram or from Mul Sankarshan or Mahasankarshan. So yes, and also, I forget which purport, but in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada explains that actually, the Leela of Jai and Vijay, this does not happen every universal cycle. That Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Shishupal, Dantavakra, these are more like posts. It's not always an eternal associate of the Lord who fills those posts. Sometimes it's just a demon. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in that purport that sometimes, again, the reason they don't get liberated by being killed by the Lord is maybe they didn't even recognize him as the Lord to begin with. And so yeah, it's not always that some eternal associate has to come down in the form of these demons. That anyway, he clarifies the eternal associate of the Lord do not fall from Vaikuntha. So yeah, this whole Leela of Jai and Vijay coming for these 3 births, this is not a regular occurrence in the history of the universe. This is a very unique occasion for this go around of history. As we know, the history in the material universe, it's cyclical. It happens. It repeats in similar but not identical ways. So yeah, this is a very a unique pastime described in Srimad Bhagavatam. We also have to think that Srimad Bhagavatam, it's seen as the crest jewel of scriptures, and there are so many different leelas described in the Puranas. But Srimad Bhagavatam, it's for Nirmatsaranam Satam, for those who are completely free of all envy, for those who are ultimately Paramahamsas, and it establishes Prema Pramartha Mahan. That Prema is the highest objective, ultimately establishing Srimati Radhika as the topmost servitor of the Lord in the Ras Leela pastime. And so everything that's described in Srimad Bhagavatam is there for a very specific purpose, to invoke pure love of Godhead. It's not there to encourage mundane religiosity. It's not there to encourage us to just try and accumulate wealth to enjoy our senses, and it's not even there to try and encourage us to become liberated. It's there to encourage us to develop unalloyed love for Sri Krishna. And so again, there are other instances of pastimes of say Lord Nrsingadev and many avatars described in different Puranas and stuff. Lord Nrsingadev, he doesn't always appear through a pillar. There are multiple descriptions of Lord Varahadev. Sometimes he comes in a red Varahadev form, sometimes white, sometimes blue. There are many different. It's not just different versions of the past. Just many different descriptions of different instances when the Lord incarnated in these ways. But then again, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it specifically chose, the pastimes in relation to Jai and Vijay coming, showing that great desire of theirs to please the Lord in each of these pastimes, showing the Lord's desire for Viras fulfilled. I believe it's in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's 10th Canto commentary to when Krishna and Jambavan were fighting. He was distinguishing that again. If Krishna, with his Satchidananda, his spiritual body, just fights an ordinary demon with a material body, it's like, I don't know, like it's just like fire on paper, just burns. It just gets destroyed. But when it's two Satchidananda bodies fighting each other, it's actually a very entertaining fight. That's even why we see that the coward boys, they're able to defeat Krishna. I've heard a funny pastime that Krishna was in an argument with one of the coward boys, like, Krishna's nose was up like this, and they said, put your nose down. No, I'm the best here. And so they wrestled him, they got Krishna down on the ground and said, see, I win. Krishna said, no, I win because my nose is still pointed up. So Krishna, he had that argument, but ultimately he was defeated by the coward boys. Yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right. Should I wait? I can wait till the end though.
You can go ahead and ask it now.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Could you repeat what book you're reading from today?
Yes, so I've read from a few different sources. This one right here is the third canto commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And so all my descriptions about Jai and Vijay, they're wanting to fulfill the desire of the Lord, come both from here and from Madhurya Kadambini.
Okay, so I'm confused / frustrated. How come Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, has a huge picture of Lord Nrsimhadev on it, and now I finally have read it and I'm close to the end, and there's actually not that much about the pastime, and there's way more in our children's coloring book. So that's how now I have to read most of Canto 7. I'm like, okay, well, I know about Lord Nrsimhadev from a coloring book. It's just confusing as like someone who's only been around like 10-15 years, because it's such a large part of our tradition.
Right.
And if ever, like so many people wear Nrsimha Kavacha,
Right.
jewelry, and if ever like someone's scared, like, oh, like here's a mantra or a photo of Lord Nrsimha,
Right.
that is not in I'm not finding it in our main Shastra.
I'm curious, how far into the 7th canto have you gotten so far?
More than 3/4, and it's past that, and now into the dharmas of like householders and
okay.
grihasthas.
So you saw the basic Nrsimhadev Leela when he comes out of the pillar, saves Prahlad Maharaj.
Yeah, and it said a lot about how the Lord is everywhere right before he comes out. Like
Right.
Krishna's in everything, the Lord is everywhere, which
Yes.
seems to be the main point being made.
Mm.
And it didn't say much at all about Prahlad and all the different challenges he went through and was almost killed in different scenarios. It said nothing about that, and I'm like, wait, where's everything from the coloring book?
Right, and yeah, I'm thinking back to reading the 7th canto, because a lot of the 7th canto, like you read the instructions of Prahlad Maharaj to his demoniac friends, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, as somebody who grew up in the Krishna consciousness movement, I can relate the aspects of, well, growing up, we're told that Nrsimha Leela. As we go deeper into bhakti, it's called Prahlad Charitra. The more deeper we go into it, we find that the focus is it's really more on Prahlad Maharaj's life history.
It really is a lot more on Prahlad Maharaj.
Right.
Because he is the dear devotee of Lord Nrsimhadev.
Yes.
And he was the only one that could also calm him down. Not even Lakshmi Devi could calm him.
Right.
She was afraid. She said, no, I'm not going up there. I don't recognize him.
Or at least I've never seen my husband this angry.
I've never seen him like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I can relate that a lot of the ways the pastimes of Prahlad and Nrsimha were told, the emphasis we were given as either new devotees or as children, it's just more like, Prahlad Maharaj was in danger and Lord Nrsimhadev saved him, and we just talk about that so much. But if you actually read the Bhagavatam, it's more about the instructions of Prahlad Maharaj to his associates. How did Prahlad Maharaj hear from Narada Muni in the womb? The instructions Prahlad Maharaj gave to his father. The actual Bhagavatam goes a lot more into those really, a lot more into that deep philosophy, a lot more into his faith there. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the 7th canto,
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I know it is, I can relate it's a little disorienting because we don't, the way Srimad Bhagavatam describes it is not necessarily how we hear it emphasized.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really the emphasis is on the praying, the great love of Prahlad Maharaj, that again, he wasn't praying for protection, and also Lord Nrsingadev wasn't actually his Ishtadev, it was either Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna even, some acharyas will say. He was praying to Lord Krishna, but just, when Hiranyakashipu asked, is your Lord in this pillar, Prahlad Maharaj said yes, and I've heard recently, I think maybe from Mukunda Prabhu, I forget, or maybe from somewhere else, that Hiranyakashipu specifically asked about the pillar because he remembers building that pillar. He said, well, Lord was not, Vishnu was not in that pillar when I built it. So, is he in there? And Prahlad Maharaj said, yes. And one of the famous verses there is, what was it? I keep forgetting the beginning of the verse, but that one of the main reasons for Lord Nrsingadev's descent was to protect the words of his pure devotees. Again, since Prahlad Maharaj says I'm in that pillar, I will prove that I'm in the pillar.
Exactly.
That is, since Lord Brahma gave very specific benedictions.
He did say that to his father. He said Krishna is everywhere.
Yeah.
He said Krishna's. So then he specifically asked that question: is he in that pillar?
Right.
He immediately said yes, he is.
Right.
I mean, without any hesitation.
Right.
Just to prove that, whatever the dear devotee, whatever Krishna's devotee says is fact.
Right. And also another pure devotee's words he was protecting was Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma blessed Hiranyakashipu that you won't, you cannot be, you can't be killed on the land and the sky and the water by man, beast, demigod, by any weapon, in the day or the night. And so, the pure devotee Lord Brahma, he gave his benediction to Hiranyakashipu.
See,
And
that's what it's really all about. It's glorification of the Vaishnavas, of the pure devotees of Krishna. That's what it's really all about.
Right. And see, was it Hladini or?
Yeah, Ladini Shakti.
Ladini Shakti, yeah. So again, the actual description of Srimad Bhagavatam, it focuses more on these points about how the Lord was protecting the word of his pure devotee because the actual description, okay, he pops out of the pillar, they fight, he kills him. It's a pretty short description. You're right.
Yeah.
And so it's more about the history, of, a lot of it's the history of Hiranyakashipu, about how he was, grief-stricken at the death of his brother Hiranyaksha, about how he was terrifying the universe, and so it's a legitimate point that the part that we mostly talk about is not what's most widely described. What's most widely focused on is the Lord's dedication to his pure devotees. That even when Lord Nrsingadev, he took, first of all, it's very significant that he took the throne of Hiranyakashipu. Because ultimately, the Lord, he won't just sit in any sitting place. It has to be a pure sitting place. And so we have to remember Hiranyakashipu, he's either Jai or Vijay. I don't remember which. And so since the pure devotee was on that throne, the eternal associate was on that throne, yes, this throne is fit for me to sit on. And when he pierced the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu, one of the reasons was that all of the Hiranyakashipu made it so that instead of making offerings to the demigods, all the brahmanas had to make their offerings to him directly. I forget if it was him or Ravana, but one of them, they actually made it so that pious activities would send you to hell and sinful activities would send you to heaven. Quite the project. Hiranyakashipu, yes. And so then, the fact that he garlanded himself with the intestines of Hiranyakashipu, it's also, he's accepting all the offerings of all those brahmanas and also the offering of of Jai or Vijay himself, and he's accepting that as a garland. And then I've also heard that when Lord Nrsingadev, he pulled out the heart of Hiranyakashipu, really the mentality was, wow, this is the heart of my pure devotee. It's so wonderful.
They always glorify.
Yes.
The
Right. And so then as Brahma Prabhu had mentioned that afterwards Lord Nrsingadev, he was in such a rage, and he was in such a fearsome form. Again, even Lakshmi Devi, she didn't want, because I think first people, the demigods were praying like, maybe Brahma or Shiva, you should pray. No, we don't want to approach him in this form. Lakshmi Devi, you go. I've never seen my husband this angry. I'm not approaching him like this. So then they finally asked Prahlad Maharaj, he's here for you. Yes. And so Prahlad Maharaj was able to go. He received the Lord's blessing on his head, and the Lord Nrsingadev, he asked, what benediction can I give you? And Prahlad Maharaj said, I'm not a businessman. I'm not here to barter and exchange anything from you. And Lord Nrsingadev said, yes, but I must give you some benediction. And so Prahlad Maharaj, he famously prayed that, may my very envious father, may he be delivered. And Lord Nrsingadev said, no, not only your father, but anyone, what was it? I think it was
generations.
at least 7 generations of your ancestors and descendants will all be delivered. So, 21? Okay. I've heard anywhere from 7 to 21.
Was Prahlad Maharaj aware that his father was Jai Vijay?
That I don't know. That's an interesting question. I've not heard of his being aware of that or not. It's always, as Srila Prabhupada explains, he knew his father was envious, so he prayed for his father to have a change of heart.
But I can't say for sure, but it wouldn't make sense that he would be aware of that, because how could he then go through the whole pastime of being Prahlad Maharaj? And, like, if he knew, that, how would he be able to be who he is and go through the whole pastime of being Prahlad Maharaj?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just like for example, when Krishna is it Yoga Maya, that makes him forget that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. Otherwise, if he remembered that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he couldn't have that exchange and that, all that love and affection and that whole thing would, play the pastime, those pastimes. So he totally forgets that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
We know that, we know that for sure with Krishna in order to play his Raj Leela, it does that. I've actually never thought about it. Does Prahlad Maharaj, is he aware that Hiranyakashipu is either Jai or Vijay? I've only heard of him relate, he even addresses Hiranyakashipu as, oh, best of the demons. I've never heard of Prahlad Maharaj give an indication that he knew.
No.
Now, is it that he knew when Yogamaya covered him? Is it that he didn't know? That I can't say, but he always addressed his father as, oh best of the demons. Asuravach, or Asuravarya, oh greatest of the demons. And so Nrsimha said, no, you don't need to ask for your father to be delivered. He's already delivered just by being in your dynasty. So then what was Prahlad Maharaj's final benediction? I forget it was to bless anyone who hears this pastime, but I know Prahlad Maharaj, his prayer was for all the living entities of this world to be delivered. I know Prahlad Maharaj in those verses, he also gives glorification of the Lord as Tri Yuga, one who appears in 3 yugas and is covered in the 4th yuga. So there's an indirect prediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there as well. We see the great prema in this Leela that Prahlad Maharaj, because he had such great prema for the Lord, Lord Nrsimhadev, he was able to be pacified by him. I may not remember the verse perfectly, but I know in the Uddhava Gita, Lord Krishna tells Uddhava that even Lakshmi Devi, Lord Sankarshan, Brahma, Shiva, and even my very self were not as dear to me as my pure devotee is. So this pastime is an example that Prahlad Maharaj was the only one who was able to pacify him. And of course we understand Lord Brahma, Shiva, Lakshmi Devi, they're also pure devotees, but the Lord, he does make this point periodically that nobody is as dear to me as my pure devotee. And so we see that with Prahlad Maharaj. And so, yes, as we go deeper into bhakti, we start hearing it referred to as Prahlad Charita, the life and activities of Prahlad Maharaj, that, even though he was born in a Brahmanic family, he always remembered the words of his spiritual master, Narada Muni. And so, he was, in the commentaries it said that he was experiencing such intense ecstasies of devotional service, just chanting the names of Krishna. And the Acharyas emphasize that it's not that Prahlad Maharaj needed protection from Lord Nrsimhadev. He was chanting the holy names, and the holy names were already protecting him from Hiranyakashipu. It was just because Prahlad Maharaj said that he's in this pillar, just to honor the words of his pure devotee Prahlad Maharaj, and Nrsimhadev appeared in the pillar. But Prahlad Maharaj was already protected by the holy names. Even Srila Prabhupada talks about how after Prahlad Maharaj instructs his demonic classmates, demonic means, in the literal sense, they are of the dynasty of demons. So after, they say, come on, let's play, and Prahlad Maharaj famously says, Kamara Acharit Pragyo Dharman Bhagavataniha Manishya Martadam Dhruvam. Forgetting the last line of the verse, but Prahlad Maharaj says that from our young age, 5 years old, we should start doing Bhagavat Dharma now. And Prahlad Maharaj, he starts describing to them in great detail that, we think we'll have time when we're older, but actually as you get older, so much of your life is spent in sleep, you have to work hard just in the struggle for material existence. And then when you get old, maybe your body's racked with diseases. So there's very little guarantee if we'll grow old, and even if we do, so much of that time is just spent surviving. Yeah, again, part of it, I love that term, the hard struggle for existence in this material world. It's just so true. So, it takes so much just to stay alive in this world. What to speak of then, diving deep into Hari Bhajan, studying scripture, chanting so many rounds. It's like, it's very difficult just to survive, what to speak of to do bhajan on top of that. So Prahlad Maharaj says, no, 5 years old, start now. Don't wait another moment. And so after he instructed them, Srila Prabhupada explains, he engaged all of them in Sankirtan. And then, of course, the teachers found it like, oh my word, Prahlad Maharaj is engaging them all in Sankirtan. So, Prahlad Maharaj, one of the founders of the Sankirtan movement, you can say. And again, just by chanting the holy names, he was already protected. Lord Nrsimhadev did not need to come for that purpose. And I think in that book, Teachings of Queen Kunti, Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord does not need to incarnate to slay demons. He may say, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam. The Lord, he comes to deliver the devotees and destroy the demons. But Srila Prabhupada said, with a gust of wind, he could kill the demons. His personal presence is not required. Any of his associates, such as, Hanuman, he could have defeated Ravana, but this is Lord Ramchandra's Leela. So then it said, Paritranaya sadhunam. I've heard this explanation both from Srila Prabhupada as well as Srila Bhaktivigyan Bharati Maharaj, that what is Paritranaya sadhunam? To deliver the devotees, but if it was just to deliver from danger, again, with a gust of wind, he could, kill any demons. There are so many ways the Lord can arrange to deliver devotees from any material danger. No, what he's delivering them from is the intense separation that they feel from him. The devotees feel great pain and separation. So by appearing personally, he soothes their heart of that fire of separation. So that's what, in a deeper sense, Paritranaya sadhunam means.
It's important to mention that Prahlad Maharaj was a pure devotee from the very moment, because before that he was in the womb for how many years did he stay in there?
60,000? 60,000 years.
60,000 years.
Yeah.
And he heard from Narada Muni himself.
Yeah.
Everything that was being said, he heard everything. So he's a pure devotee from birth, from the moment he was born, the very moment.
Yes.
So he's no ordinary soul.
Right. Oh, we have a few minutes left.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said there's other pastimes where Nrsimhadev doesn't appear from a pillar?
I've heard that from the Puranas. There's one where essentially he came flying in, shooting out some kind of Shakti weapons. I've heard that one. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a description of Jayadar Nrsimha. I think it's like a boar body Nrsimha, lion head. So there are various manifestations. Yep, there are various manifestations of Lord Nrsimhadev. I forget where it's originally described, but there's one Shiva temple where I think the Shaivites were going. No, I think it was one of Shankaracharya's temples. I think the Shaivites were going to.
I think it was worshippers of Durga, actually.
Well, there was worshippers of Kali who tried to kill Jadbara and sacrifice him to her. That's a different pastime. But I think it may have been worshippers of either Shiva or Durga. I think they were going to kill Vaishnava if he didn't pray to Lord Shiva, and so the Vaishnava prayed to Lord Nrsimhadev. Then Lord Nrsimhadev came out of the Shiva lingam and protected the devotee. So there are various.
These are like in different Puranas, though, right?
Yeah.
They're not.
Either different Puranas or sometimes even in different, more recent histories of the world. But yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam only describes the one that we're most famously familiar with. Yeah. Yeah. What other questions or comments are there?
More Earth. But Nrsimhadev, we can just like naively understand, he's Vishnu Tattva, he's an incarnation, he's part of, Lila Avatar and all this stuff. But like, we see such a prominent place in Vaishnavism, and then like Jagadharma and Mahaprabhu's followers even worshipping Nrsimhadev. So, do you want to shed more light on the extra specialness of Nrsimhadev?
Like as opposed, even about like say Ramchandra or Varahadev, right? I'm trying to think beyond what I've shared. I know one speciality of Lord Nrsimhadev, I've heard that he's one of the predominating deities of Vatsalya, that all our incarnations before Nrsimhadev did not have parents, but when he experienced that Vatsalya with Prahlad Maharaj, he said, okay, after this one, I want parents for all my future incarnations. So Vamanadev, Ramchandra, Parashuram, Krishna, all of them, they all have parents after that. Whereas, again, Nrsingadev bursts out of a pillar. Varahadev comes from Lord Brahma's nose. I don't even remember where Lord Kroma came from, but
Matsya came out of the ocean.
yeah, right. So yeah, they didn't have they didn't have any sense of Vatsalya Ras. So this is one speciality of Lord Nrsingadev. But beyond that, why do we? Because even like on Varaha Dvadashi, for example, we will pray to Lord Varahadev, but yeah, it's nowhere, other than rare exceptions such as I think Keshavji Gaudiya Math, where there is the Lakshmi Varahadev deity. That's because that's in Kola Dweep that we have a Lakshmi Varahadev deity. It's not a widely done thing. Whereas we do there's so many Lakshmi Nrsingadev deities, Ugra Nrsingadev deities. Beyond what I've mentioned so far, I don't know too much more why.
Ugra Shakti.
Right. Ugra Shakti, meaning
Ugra Nrsimha.
Ugra Nrsimha.
Ugra Shakti, which is nice.
Ugra Shakti, would that be like his Shakti companion or? No, okay.
I wonder if in the same way that Lord Shiva has that eternal relationship in Vrindavan with, Mahadev. I wonder if Lord Nrsimha also has that kind of same or similar, relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Right. Unfortunately, I don't know too much beyond just I know Srila Bhakti. I know that the Acharyas did have, again, Srila Prabhupada, or Srila Bhakti Thakur specifically did, write those prayers in Navadvip Bhavatam, which are Lord Nrsimha.
Lord Nrsimha, or Mahaprabhu's Leela, and so did everybody. I mean, Brahma came, Lord Shiva came,
Right.
everyone came.
Right.
Everybody.
And yeah, I mean, Lord Nrsimha, we know that he's specifically the form of the Lord that does, purify the heart of material desires. Okay. Yeah, so he, all I know is that he is, but I don't know more detail about why. Kishore Krishna Prabhu, how much time do we have?
Huh?
Is RJ about to start?
Artie is about to start as soon as the question is complete.
No, question's complete.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What's the question?
He was asking about why is Lord Nrsimhadev so prominent among the avatars, even though he's now an Ishtadev. I kind of said that beyond what I've mentioned so far, I don't know specifically. I know that Nrsimhadev is, recognized as that form of the Lord that we pray in our heart, but I don't know too much more detail about why specifically Lord Nrsimhadev. I just know that he is seen as the protector of the devotees.
He's also very, very close to
Yes, the Babaji still complain all the time. Was like, why is this Khan and Gaudiya Ma worshipping the Sringadev? But you know what? Sripad Padayan Maharaj actually gave a very good explanation on that. Some people. What did you hear?
No, I don't know.
What Maharaj said at okay, so many people can make so many arguments. Why are you worshipping Nrsimhadev? Why? To remove obstacles? Mahaprabhu can remove obstacles. So what is the purpose? So many people can say this, we're supposed to worship Radha and Krishna, but you have to understand, and Mahaprabhu is himself Krishna. He's himself Radha and Krishna.
Right.
But before entering the temple of Jagannath, first he went to the temple of Nrsimhadev.
Yes.
First he went and he offered those prayers. I worship you, Nrsimhadev. I want to serve you, Nrsimhadev. He offers those prayers first before entering Jagannath's temple. So many people can make so many arguments, but our final authority is Mahaprabhu.
And
whatever Mahaprabhu does is authoritative.
Right.
So Mahaprabhu is showing us that before entering Jagannath's temple, we pray to Nrsimhadev for protection.
Right. Or like you had said that Nrsimhadev purifies you before you approach Radha and Krishna.
And also the same way with Gopeshwar and Mahadev, we are supposed to go there before we enter Vrindavan.
Right.
He's the gatekeeper. He's been given that post by Krishna and the Sakis. They've been given it, so we have to go to him.
Right. And Prabhu?
It's interesting because in Egypt they had a feminine form just like Nrsimhadev. Her name is Sekhmet. And she's the protector of the unborn because a lot of women don't want to lose their baby and of children. So very similar thing going on there. And in Ramachandra's pastime, it's exhibited in Africa too. That's why you have a land in Africa called Kush and Lava, because Kush and Lava.
Hmm.
They have the story's sort of morphed a little bit, but it's the same exact story.
Very interesting. Any last thing?
You know, I just forgot.
Oh yeah, and in Mahaprabhu's plays, ancient Nrsimha deities are everywhere.
Yes.
It's just phenomenal. And,
Right.
With Krishna in the center, I feel like, sometimes he picks us through the deity that's been like Nrsimha protecting us and tells us that, as a preacher myself on the front lines a lot. And then all of a sudden, Nrsimha will just come around and say, really tap you on the shoulder really hard. So with the Lord in the center, he chooses us, and we get these different relations.
Jai.
I mean, Krishna, the Lord's not limited to anything, so I mean, he can manifest anywhere. He can do anything he likes, but I mean, we're following in the line of his divinity. That's really our attention. All these other things are just kind of distractions.
All right. Singh Hare Bhagavan ki, Krishna Maharaj ki, Shri Radha Govinda Mahaprabhu ki, Prabhupada ki, Shri Gurudeva ki, Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Would anyone like to lead Marcy? Krishna, you want to know? Easy. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Radha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda
Hari